you will, may recall previous episodes in which we talked about the beleaguered Flipcause platform. This was a donation platform that throughout last year was unable to disperse funds made through that platform to the nonprofits that used it. And we found out, George, in December in bankruptcy filings that Flipcause actually owed $29 million to an assortment of people, many of which were nonprofits that were owed donations made to their organization that they never received. Now, George, what we also found out in the filing is that Flipcause valued their product, their platform, at $15 million, which was completely overzealous. It is not worth that much money. And it turns out, George, that they only had $70,000 in their Citigroup checking account, which basically means they were completely broke. They were unable to pay their staff. They were unable to disperse this money to this nonprofits. And what did that mean, George? The fact that the money wasn't there in the first place meant that there was commingling happening, meant that they were using money that should have been parked in safe accounts for disbursement to nonprofits. That money evaporated. And that in and of itself, George, suggests some level of a high degree of mismanagement. But George, things kind of picked up. In November, the California Attorney General issued a cease and desist order demanding that the company halt all charitable solicitations. They got imposed penalties. George, there was a class action, or I shouldn't say class action, I don't know if it's a class action, but there was a lawsuit filed by 29 organizations that alleges fraud. And some of these organizations were owed in the tens of thousands of dollars in donations that they never received. So, George, that is kind of the landscape now. This organization functionally doesn't exist anymore. By the end of last year, right, it had filed in bankruptcy court. But George, we have kind of the inklings potentially of new developments here. And the result of this is not good news for nonprofits.
Yeah, and just to put some of these claims that are being made, and this is in the filing for bankruptcy and in this lawsuit, like I'm looking at numbers like Sweet Relief Musicians Fund, total claim, partially secured, unsecured claim of $1.2 million. I'm looking at the Loveland Foundation, $700,000. I'm looking at even like, I'll scroll down because there's just hundreds of pages of nonprofits that were hosed in this. We have Three Little Pitties Rescue, not sure what it is, owed $138,000. Second Harvest Food Bank of San Joaquin, and that is $172,000. So you said tens of thousands of dollars. This is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that context, this is a meaningful amount of money, and it took a group of these small and mid-sized nonprofits to get together in order to afford, frankly, the legal costs of setting this all up to go after them. Now, in the bankruptcy filings, the recent things that are getting exposed are actually because of the way these filings happen. There's like a lot of data released in this, and we've got source links if you want to go check it out. And also huge shout out to Oakland Voices, oaklandvoices.us, and they've got someone over there, Rashid Shabazz, who is just on this story, making this point that the Flipcause sale could determine if nonprofits are repaid donations. Spoiler alert. So they're unfortunately in this showing that there is a bidder, right? They did this open bidding process because $15 million is what these founders claimed that this was worth. That $15 million was then used as a sort of like listed on their balance sheet, like we can borrow against this. We're good for the money. No, trust us. And in that, the amount that is now after 150 NDAs were signed. The whole bidding process was put out there. Hey, everybody, what do you think, market? When you look at this asset, how much is it worth? Is it 15 million? Do I hear $7 million? Do I hear seven? Do I hear $5 million? Do I hear three? Do I hear three? 1 million? Anybody? Anybody? Do I hear $500,000? They ended up with $400,000 being the only bid. Maybe that person like was just there being like, why not lower? I don't even know, because if you're the only bidder, you're the only bidder. Did you find a fair market value? They certainly went to the market, and it's S4NP. And this story is not about S4NP and the bidder there, because there was one bidder on March 17th. It's going to be decided by a judge being like, okay, you are the lucky winner of this platform and this tool. The other point of this is that, okay, so we got $400,000, not $15 million to repay the 29 million or so. Of that money, half of it ish is going to go to the, investment bankers and the lawyers involved with that, very, active sale. And that's just sort of cost of doing business. And then the other half is going to get portioned out to actually the first creditor in this list. And I think Rashid in his article does a great job of explaining this, for me at least, as though I were, at a wedding with a champagne tower. And in the champagne tower, the top glass, until that is full, the trickle doesn't happen. And the first one listed is the employees who have a claim on $187,000. So all of those words just mean that the sale proved this platform was worth virtually nothing in the marketplace. And on top of that, any hope of like, hey, maybe some money will trickle out to the nonprofits to whom donors gave money directly to. Like they thought they were processing payments to give them money. They will see zero from that effective sale of the platform. And that's just, you probably knew that was coming. We're just following up on it. The other point in the story that, they kind of pick up on is the last hope of some amount of compensation followed by some amount of justice, is that there is a lawsuit, federal lawsuit, that has been listed and going after a clawback, essentially, of the $3.8 million paid to the founders in the last year when things were going sideways. And this is where it gets a little messy, I'll be honest, but effectively what came out in this, the filing for bankruptcy, is the statement that this money was actually a loan, that they were doing bridge financing to get to an exit, like the sale. So it was like a loan for the process of doing that. So it was framed as loan repayments rather than compensation. And this is what the Raven and Wheeler were and are coming out and saying. And this all hinges upon whether or not that $3.8 million was a bonus or compensation, or was it a loan repayment for a sale that, remind you, didn't happen. And if it did, the market just showed us was worth $400,000. So whether or not it is revealed that this is fraud, we're watching and seeing. But there's a lot of donations that didn't find their way to noble causes. And it's just, again, a reminder. I think the takeaways are, pay attention to that float and get very, very suspicious if your process payments from your platform of choice take so much as an extra second to process. Alarm bells, flags, pay attention. And in this case, it's unfortunate because I think if they were playing at a higher table stakes, if they were playing with, larger organizations, I'll be honest, this would have been like, no, we're sicking our lawyers on you. And because they were smaller nonprofits, they didn't have the go-to lawyers to turn to. They're like, oh, I'm sure they'll sort it out. Like, it is easier to steal in some cases from smaller groups.
Yeah, George, I agree. This, George, is a trend. This is something we are passionate about, you and I, because we are uniquely positioned, George, as an agency to be like the the fairy godparents of many, many dozens of nonprofits. I mean, we combined, we probably worked with how many hundreds of organizations at this point?
Over 200 directly as clients. Yeah.